Hello, students. Good afternoon. How are you all? Hope you are doing great. And I'm your biology mentor, Amit Singh. So, today I'm going to deal with the chapter Plant Kingdom, right? So, this is the third part of this chapter. So, we are going to deal with the plant kingdom. And in this plant kingdom part 3, if we talk about the weightage, then 3 to 4 questions generally asked from this chapter in the NEET examination, right? So we have to prepare this chapter in a that way that some important questions come from this chapter, right? So in this we are going to study about the characteristics of gymnosperm, right? We are going to study about the gymnosperm, we are going to study about the angiosperm, right? So the first thing that we are going to study, that is the characteristic of gymnosperm. So if we talk about the gymnosperms, then gymnosperms are naked seed. This is the one of the very important characteristics of, and this word means gymnos means naked, right? And sperma means seeds. So it means naked seed, right? Gymnosperm means naked seeds. And this includes medium-sized trees, tall trees, and also shrubs. So if we talk about some shrubs, then we are having cycas and thuja as an example, right? Medium-sized trees, then that is ginkgo. And if we talk about the tall trees, then we are having pinus and sequoia gigantica. This is the tallest tree, right? So we are having different form or different size of the trees. We are having shrubs, we are having medium sized trees, and also the tall size trees. All gymnosperms are perennial and woody, while some of these are very large and live for thousands of years. So gymnosperms are basically perennial. So if you know about the type of plants on the basis of their flowering or their completion of the life cycle, then we are having annual plant and perennial plant, right? Perennial plant. The annual plant life cycle completes in just one season or in a year, whereas the perennial plant, their life cycle is completed more than a year, right? So there will be have a growth vegetative phase, then there will be have a reproductive phase, then there will be a strong woody phase. So they are woody, and some of these are very large and live for thousands of years, like Sequoia gigantica and Pinus species, different Pinus species. For example, Pinus gerardiana. Seeds do not occur inside fruit, means they are naked. Seeds are not covered with fruit. Generally, we see in the case of angiosperm, the seeds are covered with fruit, right? And fruits are what? Fruits are ripened ovary. So that is totally absent in the case of gymnosperm. So they are naked. Female gametophyte contain archegonia. So let us talk about the different types of male and female gametophytes. So female gametophyte, they contain archegonia, right? And the pollination is direct as stigma is absent, and the pollen grains directly reach the micropylar end of the ovule. So they do not need any water, as we have seen in the case of bryophytes and pteridophytes. They require water for reaching this anthrazoids to the archegonia. But here in the case of gymnosperm, for pollination, what is required? Wind, right? So anemophilous type of pollination is there in the case of gymnosperm. Pollen grains directly reach to the micropylar end of the ovule. So we have ovules, right? And there is so it is covered. This is the ovule. And here they are having micropyle. So this is called as the micropylar end. Micropylar end, right? So this pollen grain reaches to here and it germinate. Male gametophyte produces only two male gametes or the sperms, and generally one of them is functional. So generally they give rise to two gametes, right? Two sperms, and their sperms are like this, pear shape, and they are having grooves like this. And in these grooves, lots of flagella are present. So that provides motility to it, like this, right? An external water is not required for the transport of male gamete. Very important point. No water is required for the transportation of male gamete, as we have seen in the case of bryophytes and pteridophyte. Instead, pollen tube is formed by the male gametophyte for effecting the fertilization, that is siphonogamy. So what will happen? This pollen grain give rise a pollen tube like structure, right? So this is pollen tube, and in this pollen tube male sperm or male gametes are present, right? So pollen tube is formed by the male gametophyte. This pollen grain is male gametophyte. This is the male gametophyte. And this give rise to this pollen tube when it reaches to the micropylar end, right? And that is why it is called as siphonogamy. A siphonous structure is formed here by the germination of the male gametophyte, that is the pollen grain. Seeds contain food-laden tissue or endosperm for the future growth of the embryo in seedling. We all know that endosperm is formed for the providing food for the developing embryo and also at the time of germination, right? So this endosperm is very, very important. But there is a slight difference between the gymnosperm and angiosperm endosperm formation. In gymnosperm, endosperm formation takes place prior the fertilization. It form prior the fertilization process. Whereas in the case of angiosperm, it is formed after fertilization. This is the major difference. And due to this is haploid. This is haploid in nature, and this is triploid, because we will discuss this in the angiosperm. You just remember that this is triploid, whereas in the case of gymnosperm, this endosperm is haploid in nature, right? So seed contain food-laden tissue that is called as endosperm, and that provide food for future growth of embryo into seedlings, right? Like pteridophytes, xylem does not possess vessels except in some gnetophytes like ephedra. In ephedra, this is one of the gnetophytes. An example, ephedra, they are having vessels. This is the exception. But generally, the gymnosperm do not have vessels. So if we talk about the xylem component, what are the component of the xylem? Xylem vessels, tracheids, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. These are the four components that is present in the, as a xylem component. Now if we talk about the gymnosperm, then this vessel is absent. This vessel is absent in the case of gymnosperm, and also it is absent in the pteridophytes, right? But you do remember that in gnetophyte, that is in ephedra for example, they possesses these vessels as well. Phloem is without companion cell and sieve tube. So we all know what are the component of phloem. There are 4 component of phloem. Phloem component. So if we talk about the phloem component, then they are having sieve tubes. Sieve tubes. Companion cell. Companion cell. Phloem fibers. Phloem fibers. And phloem parenchyma. We all know that these are the 4 component of the phloem. But in the case of gymnosperm, these 2 are not present. Sieve tubes and companion cells are absent in the case of gymnosperms, right? So phloem without companion cell and tubes. This is very, very important. Sieve cells are not arranged end to end. Generally what happens, sieve cells are there. Sieve cells are there. These are the sieve cells and they are arranged like this, end to end. But in the case of gymnosperm, such arrangement is not present. So this is also one of the peculiar characteristic of the gymnosperms. Okay, so let us talk about the classification of the gymnosperm. So we can see here they are having 4 different classes, right? 4 different classes. That is the Psychedopsida. The first one is the Psychedopsida. So cycads, small group of gymnosperm. This is a small group of gymnosperm and the example is the cycas. If we talk about the characteristic of this, then they are usually found in the tropics and subtropics. Where they are found? They are found in the subtropics and also in the tropics, right? In the tropical and subtropical region. And some members have adapted to dry arid condition, right? So this is one of the peculiarity of this particular class. So they are dioecious, means individual plants are either all male or female. Cycads are seed bearing plants. So these cycas, they bear seeds, where the majority of the members are now extinct, but majority of the members are extinct, but some are still living. So this is about the Psychedopsida, right? Next is the Ginkgopsida. So it is represented by only one species, Ginkgo biloba. So this is the living fossil, we can say. So they are, Ginkgo are the tree characteristic. They are like a tree, right? And the tree have a large number of applications ranging from the medicines to cooking, right? They are very important because they are of medicinal importance as well as for the cooking. So Ginkgo leaves are ingested as a remedy for the memory related disorder, that is the Alzheimer. So this is one of the importance of this particular plant. Okay, so this is a living fossil. This is the living fossil. This is the only member living in this Ginkgopsida. Next is the Coniferopsida. Coniferopsida. Reproductive structures are in the form of cones. This conifer is representation of cone, right? It is showing cone. So the members that forms the cones are belongs to this particular classifications class, that is the Coniferopsida. Examples are Pinus and Thuja, right? So here you can see the Pinus, it is bearing the cone-like structure. So they are most commonly known as species among the gymnosperm family. So Pinus and Thuja, these are the two examples, and they are quite evergreen plants. They are quite evergreen and they do not shed their leaves in the winter. They are mainly characterized by the male and female cone. So they are having different male cone and female cone. Male cone and female cone. Their size and their structures are totally different. So they are morphologically different. You can say that this is the male cone and this is the female cone. Now, the next one, the fourth one, that is the Gnetopsida. So lianas or shrubs, generally they are in the form of lianas. So what are lianas? Lianas are the weak plants that climb. Suppose there is a tree. So these weak plants, climbers, they are climbers and they reaches to the top of the tree because sunlight is coming at the top of the tree. And when they are present below this tree, they are not getting proper sunlight. So they grow in such a way that they reaches to the top of the tree like this. So these are called as lianas, right? So they are generally in the form of lianas or shrub. You all know what are shrubs, right? And a few are stumpy turnip-like. And examples are Gnetum and Ephedra. So this is a classification of the gymnosperm. This is very, very important from the examination point of view. So Psychedopsida, example Cycas. Ginkgopsida, example Ginkgo biloba. Coniferopsida, example Pinus and Thuja. And last one, that is Gnetopsida, example are Gnetum and Ephedra. Okay, so let us discuss one by one the three main examples of the gymnosperm, that is Cycas, Pinus and Ginkgo. Right? We are going to discuss these three different individuals of the gymnosperm. The first one is the Cycas. So Cycas plant resemble palm tree or tree ferns, right? So they are leaves that is showing the appearance of palm tree. Like when you see this tree, Cycas tree, it shows that it is like a palm tree, or sometime it is also resemble the tree ferns. Their leaves are like fern. You have studied about the fern that belongs to the Pteridophyta, but they are very herbaceous type of plant. But this is quite hard. Their stem is quite hard, so they appear like a tree ferns. Okay. So cycas are the plant that are closely resembles to the palm tree or tree ferns. They have a pinnate leaves that persist for a few years. So they are having leaves like this pinnately. This is the compound leaf, and you can if you have seen the cycas, if you get a chance to see the cycas, please see that there have a waxy coating above this leaves, and they are very shiny. Right? So they can persist for few years, and that is why they comes under the evergreen. They have unbranched columnar stem that is covered with the spiral bands of the leaves. So if we talk about the stem, so this is the unbranched columnar stem you can see, and they are having leaves arranged at the top like this. And at this point you can see the scars are present. These scars are for the leaves that are shed off. Like this, you can see the stem. Right? So this is showing the unbranched columnar stem that is covered with the spiral bands of the leaves. This is showing the spiral bands earlier present, and now here the leaves are present at this top of the stem, arranged spirally. Roots are of two types, normal and coralloid. Very, very important point, right? They are having the two types of roots. So if we draw again, this is the stem part and they are having the main root. This is the ground like this. So this is the main root. That is the normal root. This is the normal root. And along this normal root, they are having coralloid root as well. Coralloid root. So this coralloid root have a symbiotic association with the blue-green algae like nostoc and Anabaena. So these are the two examples of cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria. They are also called as blue-green algae. Very important. And they reside in this coralloid root. They are present. The coralloid roots are here. They are present here. So, generally the root goes down, right? They are showing the positive geotropism. Positive geotropism means they are attracted towards the gravity and they always grow downward. But if you talk about this coralloid root, this is showing the negative geotropism phenomena. This is very, very important. Negative geotropism phenomena means it's grow upward and they are having lots and lots of cyanobacteria. For example, nostoc and Anabaena. So you all know what is the function, what is the significance of the presence of cyanobacteria in the roots. They do the process of nitrogen fixation, nostoc and Anabaena, right? They do the process of nitrogen fixation and makes the nitrogen available to the plant. So this is the significance of this coralloid root. So two types of roots are present in the cycas. Normal root, coralloid root. Normal root shows the positive geotropism phenomena. Coralloid root shows the negative geotropism phenomena. Coralloid roots are having blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. For example, nostoc and Anabaena. So please do remember these points that coralloid root present in cycas, right? Okay, so let us talk about the propagation in the case of cycas. How the propagation or how the reproduction in the cycas occur. So, vegetative reproduction occur by the fleshy bulbils. So, they give rise a bulbils. So, this is one of the figure that is showing the bulbils. So, if I draw a figure of a cycas, suppose this is a cycas tree, right? So at this point, they give rise small bulbils like this. And you can detach this bulbil and you can place in another pot or at another site. So this will give rise you a new plant. So vegetative reproduction occur by the fleshy bulbils. Cycas is a dioecious plant with distinct male and female plant. It means that they will have a male plant and they will have a female plant separate, right? And they both, whether it is a male plant or female plant, that bears what? Cone. So the cones are also different, male cone and female cone. So let us see. This is the male cone. This is the figure of the male cone in the case of cycas. You can see the leaves also. How the leaves are. They are like fern leaves. But they are having a cuticle layer. A thick cuticle layer. And waxy coating is also there. So they are very shining. And they withstand in the extreme climatic condition. Whereas the fern cannot. Ferns are having the very delicate leaves, right? And they always grow in the shady region. Whereas this cycas can grow in open even in the xerophytic condition. Okay, so let us talk about the cone. So this male cone is a oval made up of microsporophylls. So if you see these single structure, what are these? Microsporophylls. We all know that sporophylls means leaf-like structure that bears sporangia. We have seen in the case of fern, at the ventral surface of the leaf, the sori are present. These sori are present. And in the sori, sporangia are present. And inside the sporangia, spores are present. Right? So this is the arrangement. But here, all these sporophylls joined compactly and forms a cone-like structure. Actually, this is a sporophyll, but these sporophylls are compactly came together and they form a cone-like structure. So in the case of male plant, they are having the male cone, and in the case of female plant, they are having the female cone. So let us see this male cone. So again, this is the male cone. You can see the similar structure, and this is a sporophyll-like structure. So here, this is the transverse section. This is the longitudinal section of the cone. Longitudinal section of the cone. And this is showing one sporophyll, right? So this is the microsporophyll, and here these are the small sori. And in the sori, spores are present. So here, this is the sori, that is also called as the microsporangia, and inside the microsporangia you can see the numbers of spores, right? So this is the microsporophyll, this structure, and this is the cut section. This is the cut section of this. And when you cut this, you can see this as a microsporophyll, and these are microsporangia. Inside the microsporangia, male spores are present, right? Okay, so let us talk about the megasporophylls. Megasporophylls means they are present in the female cone. They bear 2 to 12 reddish ovules in the middle fertile part, and the pollination is anemophilous. So their ovule structure, if we draw as ovule structure, it is like this, right? It is like this, and these round ovule structures are present. These are the ovules. These are the ovules, and these are called as megasporophylls. Megasporophylls, right? So here you can see, this is not, you can differentiate it with the male cone, because in the male cone, the cone is like this, right? And there are microsporophylls are arranged. But here you can see the megasporophylls. Megasporophylls, right? Female cone is loose and consists of the megasporophylls. So male cone is quite compact, whereas this female cone is quite loose. The sperm is largest in the biological world. So this is the largest sperm that is present in the biological world. Cycas sperms are the largest, and sperms are top shaped with the number of flagella present in the 5 to 6 grooves. So there is the top shaped sperm, and they are having 5 to 6 grooves like this, and each grooves they are having like this flagella. So that helps in movement like this, right? So you have to remember this. This point is very important. The sperm is the largest in the biological world, and the sperms are top shaped, having number of flagella present in 5 to 6 grooves. Next plant to the this gymnosperm is the pinus. Pinus belong to the conifer family. So if we remember the classification, there is a class that is called as Coniferopsida, right? So this Coniferopsida bears this, they're having a family that is called as conifer family, and this name, that is conifer, it comes as they bear cone, So they includes other needle bearing tree like spruce, firs and cedars. So these are some of the examples: spruce, firs and cedars along with the pines or pinus. And you can see they are having needle like leaf, green color, needle like leaf. Very, very important. Cycas, they are not having the needle like leaf, right? They are having the compound, pinnately compound leaf, as you have seen in the case of ferns. But in the case of pine, they are having needle like leaves. Pines are evergreen tree, meaning they retain their needles throughout the year. So that is why they are called as evergreen tree. So it doesn't mean that they do not shed their leaves. They shed their leaves, but at the same time, new leaves are emerging. New green leaves are emerging. So the old leaves drop down, and at the present time they are having the new leaves. So generally the tree is never devoid of any leaves. They are always having leaves, right? So that is why they are called as evergreen tree. Stem branches are of two types, long and dwarf. So they are having two different types of branches, long branches and dwarf branches, and they possesses 1 to 5 needle like foliage leaves. Roots are also of two types. We have seen in the case of cycas, normal roots and coralloid roots. In the same way, this pinus is also having two types of roots. Normal roots with the root hair and the root cap. Generally, the angiosperms are also having the roots. In the same way, they are also having the roots, that is having root hairs and root cap. So this is the main root. Here they will present root cap and they will have root hairs. Now they are having mycorrhizal roots as well, with no root hairs and root caps. Now what happened in this type of root? They give rise a association with some of the fungi. Some fungi are present and their hypha are coming from a long distance, right? So this is the fungi and their hypha are coming from the long distance and make an association with the roots of pinus. So this is called a mycorrhizal association that occur with the fungi. Now what is the significance of such type of association? These mycorrhizal association, this fungi provide some of the important minerals to the roots of the pinus, and in return pinus provide them food material. So this is also showing a mutual relationship, mycorrhizal association, right? So very, very important. Mycorrhizal, you have to remember this. Mycorrhizal association we can see in the case of pinus, whereas the coralloid type of root that is present in the cycas. Okay. So let us see the cone of the pinus. Pine male cones are generally smaller and less conspicuous than the female cone. This is the difference. So they are quite smaller. You can see this male cone, and male cone are usually positioned lower down the branches. So they are not present at the upper branches, they are present at the lower branches. So sometimes the difference, a true difference can be asked in the pinus, male cone and female cone. So you have to remember 2 points. The male cones are less conspicuous than the female cone, means they are smaller in size, right? And they are not present at the top of the branches, they are present lower down the branches. Okay. Next, female cone. Now you can see this. Female cones are quite conspicuous and they are woody even. Female cone develops in group of 2 to 6 on the upper longer branches. So they are present on the longer branches. Ovuliferous scales bears 2 ovules towards the basal region. So these are the ovuliferous scales. These are the single scales you can see, right? Now, when the pollination occur, you can see in the pine forest yellow clouds like this. Yellow clouds. Now, what are these yellow clouds? These are actually pollen grain. Pollen grain. When the male cone dehisces, it gives rise to lots of pollen grain released in the atmosphere, and at that time this appear as a yellow cloud. So pollen grain forms yellow clouds in the pine forest. And pollination is anemophilous. It means it is occur with the help of winds. After fertilization, the ovule mature into seeds, right? Always this ovule always matured into the seeds. So here in the case of pinus also, ovule matured into seeds. Female cone takes about 26 months for reaching the maturity, right? So it takes 26 months. The female cone formed and it enlarges, and at the 26 month, after 26 month, this female cone become mature, and it can take part in the process of fertilization. Okay, so it open to release wing seeds. So here you can see the wing seeds like this. These are the wing. This is the wing, and you can see the seed which was earlier attached here, but now it is detached. This is the wing seed. Here you can see this is the seed and this is the wing. So wing seed is present in which species? Pinus. This is one of the important feature. The third example, that is the ginkgo biloba. It is called living fossil as it has not changed from last several years, and since it appears in the Triassic period, and this is the only species that is present in its family. Leaves are fan shaped. So here you can see the fan shaped leaves. So this is very beautiful plant, ginkgo biloba, and this is the living fossil. So sometime it is asked in the examination also by giving the 4 different examples and which one is the living fossil. So you have to remember this point. Ginkgo biloba is the living fossil. Life cycle of gymnosperm. So dwarf shoot of the female plants bear distinct megasporangiate structure, right? So their female plant, it is having the megasporangiate structure, and the endosperms are roasted seed is edible. So this is one of the important feature of the endosperm that is present in the seed. So here comes the life cycle of the gymnosperm. So here this is the mature sporophyte plant. Okay, and this is the female cone. Okay, this is the female cone, quite conspicuous, larger and woody. And here you can see they are present in the long stem. This is the long stem, and they are having the dwarfed stem also. So this is very small if you compare to the female cone. Okay, so it gave rise to the female cone. Now here you can see the ovules. This is the ovule. Okay, and in the ovule meiosis occur that gave rise to spores, and 3 of the spores that get degenerated and 1 is become functional. So sperm. And here what happened in the case of male cone? Spore sac is here, and inside the spore sac many spores, that is haploid in nature, that are present. And when they are released, you can see this wing structure like this, wing structure, right? And they reaches to this female gametophyte. So fertilization takes place and zygote is formed. Zygote changes to the embryo, and embryo changes to, and when the seed is sown, then it gives rise to the young sporophyte, right? So this is the life cycle of the gymnosperm. Here we can see some of the important points of the gymnosperm. Dominant and more visible stage of the gymnosperm life cycle is the sporophyte. So if you remember, in bryophytes, the gametophyte is the main plant, whereas in the case of pteridophyte, sporophyte is the main plant. Similarly, in the gymnosperm also, the dominant plant is the sporophyte. Sporophyte produces specialized reproductive structures known as cones or strobili. We have already seen that they bear cone-like structures. Cones can be either male. When it is present on the male plant, then it is a male cone. When it is present on the female plant, then it is female cone. This is about dioecious species. In the monoecious species, they are having different branches, as we can see in the case of pinus, right? So pinus are having two different types of branches. The one branch that bears the male cone and the one branch that bears the female cone, right? And they develop on the same plant but on the different time. Sometimes their timing is also different for the formation of the male and female cone. So when they mature, the pollen cone release pollen grains into the air, and pollen grain load on the female cone of the same species. It can germinate, forming the pollen tube that grows towards the female gametophyte. So this we have already seen, that how the pollen grains germinate and reaches to the female gametophyte. One of the sperm cell fertilize the egg cell, forming the diploid zygote. So when there is a formation, there is a process of reproduction, the final cell that is formed is zygote, right? The sperm cell unite with the egg cell and form the zygote. The fertilized ovule develops into seed, and that have an embryo inside it. Ovule of the gymnosperms are naked, as they do not have fruit wall and seed coat. So this is the peculiarity of this gymnosperm, that they do not have fruit wall, right? And the seeds are naked. Once mature, the seed cone release the seeds. After maturity, the seed cones release the seeds. The embryo inside the seeds develops into a new sporophytic plant and start a new cycle. So let us talk about the economic importance of gymnosperm. So some plant seeds are edible. Seeds of Pinus gerardiana, that is edible, that is eaten. Gymnosperm possesses timber wood, and they are used in making furniture, plywood, packing cases, matchstick and railway sleepers as well. They are also used in the manufacture of paper. So their wood are also used in paper industry for making papers. Needle of Pinus are used in making fiber board also. Now let us start the angiosperm. So angiosperm, we are having many chapters that describes about the sexual reproduction in the angiosperm, histology of the angiosperm, right? Morphology of the angiosperm. So we will just focus here some important points, okay? Flowering plants or the angiosperms are the most recently and highly evolved plants. So basically this angiosperm has been evolved after gymnosperm, and they are the most abundant and the conspicuous plant. About 270,000 or 220,000 dicot and 50,000 monocot species. So this is the description of the number of the angiospermic plant that are present today, and out of those 220,000 are the dicots and 50,000 are the monocot species. Flowering plants occur in all the environments on the earth. Sea is the only exception. In sea, only two genera are reported, that is the Zostera and Thalassemia. So they are only two genera that are present in the sea, because they cannot withstand in such an adverse condition of the sea. Wolffia is the smallest angiosperm. This is the aquatic plant, Wolffia, aquatic plant, right? And the one that is eucalyptus is the largest one. You must have seen this tree, eucalyptus tree, okay? This Wolffia is the aquatic plant. This is the smallest angiosperm, and eucalyptus is the largest one. The angiosperm contain a large group of plants that can grow in diverse habitat. So they are present in different habitats. Orchids live underground, are associated with the mycorrhizal association. So they are also present as a mycorrhizal association. Some plants are attached to the other plant. They are dependent on them for the space. So they are called as epiphytes. In the previous slide, we have seen a picture that was a picture of epiphyte. So these some angiospermic plant grow on other plant just for the space. They do not take any nutrition. They do not take, and they are not parasitic even. They are just get attached to the surface of the tree just for the space. So they are also called as space parasite. Such plants are called as epiphytes. Uh, they are popularly known as space host. Example, Venda. They provide us food, fodder, fuel, medicine, and several other commercially important products. Okay, sporophylls are aggregated to form flowers, right? In case of angiosperm, sporophylls are aggregated to form flowers. So we are having 4 different whorls in the flower. If we talk about the whorls of flower, then we are having outer whorls, right? Outer whorl, that is called as sepal. Next to this is the petal, right? And next to this is anther, or we can say stamen. And inside this is the carpel. So basically they are the sporophylls that are aggregated to form flower. 4 whorls aggregate together to form flower. This is the reason angiosperms are called as flowering plant, because the sporophylls are present in the form of flowers. That is why they are called as flowering plant. So if we talk about the stamen, then stamen is having 2 parts, anther and filament. And inside the anther they are having pollen grains. Both the microsporophylls and megasporophylls are specialized. Microsporophylls or stamen consist of filament and anther. So here we can see the filament and anther, and they form the stamen. This is also considered as microsporophyll, right? Microsporophyll. Now, if we talk about the megasporophyll, okay, that is also called as carpel or pistil. This is also called as carpel or pistil. Now, this megasporophyll is having 3 parts: stigma, style, and ovary. Stigma is the top part that receives the incoming pollen grains, and the stalk-like structure, that is style, and the lower bulbous part, that is called as ovary, and inside the ovary ovules are present. So this is the general description of the flower of an angiosperm, right? Angiosperms are divided into 2 classes, monocotyledons and dicotyledons. What are monocotyledons? They are characterized by containing only 1 cotyledons in their seed. So if you see the seed of a rice, it is like this, right? Maize, or even the wheat, they are all monocot. Their seed cannot be divided in, or you cannot split into 2 parts. But if you see the dicotyledons, as the name indicate, di means 2, cotyledons that are present in the seed. So they are characterized by containing 2 cotyledons in their seeds. If you see the gram seed, right? So 2 cotyledons are present. 2 cotyledons are present. 2 cotyledons are present, right? So here we can see some of the difference between the dicot and monocot. So pollen grains have 3 pores or the furrows in the case of dicot. So here you can see 3 furrows. And in the case of monocots, 1 pore is there. 2 cotyledons in the seeds and only 1 cotyledons in the case of monocot. Flowers have 4 or 5 floral parts, multiples of 3, right? And flowers have 3 floral parts or the multiples of 3 in the case of monocot. This you must have studied in the lower class also, that they are having reticulate venation, net-like veins, reticulate venation, whereas in the case of monocot, the leaves are having parallel venation. If we talk about the vascular bundle, then the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring-like structure, right? And vascular bundles are quite small and spread throughout the stem. It is spread through like this. It is spread throughout the stem. If we talk about the root, then it is having tap root system. Tap root system. And in the case of monocot, they are having fibrous root. Many roots emerges at a point. And there is no main root, right? But in the case of dicot, they are having one main root that is called as taproot. Anther is a specialized structure located at the tip of the stamen. So this is the internal structure of the stamen, right? So they are having this anther lobe, and inside this lobe, pollen sac. These are the 4 pollen sac, and inside this pollen sac, pollen grain or microspores are present. Okay, so each anther typically consists of 4 pollen sac or microsporangia. So these are called as pollen sac or microsporangia. Inside this, pollen grains are developed. Inside each pollen sac, diploid cells that is called microsporocyte undergo meiosis. So inside this diploid cells that is called as microsporocyte that undergo meiosis and that give rise to pollen grains. Each microsporocyte resulting into total 4 haploid cells that is also called as microspores. So here, this is the megasporocyte, one functional megaspore mother cell that is diploid in nature that give rise 4 haploid cells after meiosis. That is the reduction division. And out of these 3 get degenerated and only one become functional that give rise to mitosis, this mature embryo sac. And if you see the mature embryo sac, what you see? They are having some different cells. So the embryo sac initial undergoes further mitotic division and cell specialization to form a mature embryo sac, right? So mature embryo sac, which typically consists of 7 cells with 8 nuclei. What are these 7 cells and 8 nuclei? The cells are organized into 3 distinct regions or the cell types. So here we can see 3 antipodal cells. 3 antipodal cell at the chalazal end, 3 antipodal cells. Okay, so 3 cells are here that is located at the chalazal end of the embryo sac, and 2 synergid cell that is present at the micropylar end, 2 synergid and 1 egg cell. So total 3 cells are present at the micropylar end. So how many cells are there? 3 cells at the chalazal end and 3 cells at the micropylar end. What about this cell? The central cell. This is 1 cell, right? So this is the central cell. So total we are having 7 cells. Now let us talk about the nucleus. So 1 nucleus, 2 nucleus, 3 nucleus in the antipodal cell, 2 nucleus in the synergid cell, 1 nucleus in the egg cell, and 2 polar nuclei. So total 8 nuclei. So this is asked in many times in the examination. 2 synergid cells, right? So they play a role in the guiding the pollen tube growth. Egg cell that is present in the central cell located between the synergid. The egg cell contain a female gamete egg that play a crucial role in the fertilization process. 2 polar nuclei that is present in the center cell and they undergo the double fertilization and forms endosperm. So all these things that you will going to study in the sexual reproduction in flowering plant in a great detail. Here just I given some of the important characteristic of the angiosperm. Okay. So when pollen grain land on the stigma of the flower, it germinate and send a pollen tube down through the style and into the ovule. So this pollen tube reaches to the ovule. One sperm cell fuses with the egg cell, forming a zygote, and another fuses with the two polar nuclei, and that give rise to double fertilization, and that changes to embryo endosperm, right? And when there is a syngamy, that is the fusion of one male gamete with the egg, then it is called as syngamy, and that give rise to embryo. The other sperm cell fuses with the two polar nuclei within the central cell, resulting in the formation of triploid cell and the primary endosperm nucleus. So this is also called as triple fusion. Fertilized ovule ripen into the seeds. When ovule that get fertilized, it changes to seed, and seeds are enclosed by the fruit, and fruit is technically a ripened ovary. So we can say fruit changes, ovary changes to fruit, and inside fruit seeds are present. So here is the alternation of generation. We can see here the sporophytic plant, right, undergo meiosis that give rise to spores, okay, and mitosis that give rise to the gametophyte. Egg and sperm are present, okay. When they unite together, that is the syngamy, fertilization takes place, zygote is formed, and it give rise to the embryo. They germinate and they are present in the seed germinate, and again it gives rise to the sporophyte. So here we can see the two things, diploid and haploid phase. Different plant group complete their life cycle in the different pattern. Angiosperm complete their life cycle in two phases, that is diploid, that is the sporophyte, and the haploid, that is the gametophyte phase. So the two follow each other rigidly, and the phenomena is called as alternation of generation. Okay, so let us have some examples that previous year questions, okay, based on this chapter. The endosperm of the gymnosperm develops dash fertilization, whereas the endosperm of an angiosperm develops fertilization. So in the beginning of the chapter, I have already explained this particular point, right? The endosperm of the gymnosperm before, and we all know that in the angiosperm, after fertilization, that is syngamy, there is a double fertilization that gives you the formation of endosperm. So this is incorrect. After. It means that in gymnosperm, endosperm formation takes place after the fertilization process, that is the syngamy. No, it takes place prior the fertilization process in the case of gymnosperm, right? So before in the case of gymnosperm, and after fertilization in the case of angiosperm. So D is the correct option. This is also incorrect, after and before, right? So the correct is before. After means the endosperm of the gymnosperm develops before fertilization, whereas the endosperm of an angiosperm develops after fertilization. Second question. Select the correct statement. Salvinia, ginkgo and pinus are all gymnosperm. Ginkgo and pinus are gymnosperm, but Salvinia is a pteridophyte, so this is incorrect. Sequoia is one of the tallest tree. Yes, sequoia is the tallest tree in fact. This is belong to the gymnosperm. The leaves of the gymnosperms are not well adapted to extreme climate. Totally wrong. They are adapted to extreme climate. whether it is a pinus tree or whether it is a cycas tree, the leaves are well adapted to extreme climate, right? Gymnosperms are both homosporous and heterosporous. Wrong. So the correct statement is sequoia is one of the tallest tree. Third question. Besides paddy fields, cyanobacteria are also found inside the vegetative part of Pinus, Cycas, Equisetum, Xylotum. So Pinus, mycorrhizal association is there. That is with the help of fungi. In Cycas, coralloid root is there, coralloid root, and inside coralloid root what is present? Cyanobacteria. For example, nostoc and anabina. So this is very, very important point. Nostoc and anabina. Equisetum and xylotum, these are the two pteridophytes and they do not have cyanobacteria in their vegetative part. So the correct is the cycas. Cycas is the correct answer. Next question. Cycas and adiantum resemble each other in having seeds, motile sperms, cambium, vessels. So vessels are generally absent, right? So what is the correct answer? Seeds, cycas and adiantum. Adiantum is a fern, so they do not bear seeds. Cambium is also not present. But yes, they bear motile sperm. They both bear motile sperm. So this is the correct answer. Next question. Gymnosperms are also called softwood spermatophytes because they lack cambium, phloem fibers, thick walled tracheids and xylem vessels. So what is not present in the gymnosperm? In the earlier, when we are talking about the characteristic of gymnosperm, this we have already discussed. So thick walled tracheids, this is present, right? Phloem fibers are present and cambium is also present, but this xylem vessels is absent. So gymnosperms are also called softwood spermatophyta because they lack xylem vessels. Okay, so let us have some question for your exercise, right? You can note down this question and you can do with your own, and we can later discuss about this. So which one of the following as a haplontic life cycle? For example, you have four options: Funaria, Polytrichum, Astilago, wheat. Please note down this. Okay, some answers are coming. Very good. Which one of the following has haplontic life cycle? Yes, Funaria, Polytrichum, Astilago, wheat. Next question. In gymnosperm, the pollen chamber represent. What does the pollen chamber in gymnosperm represent? A cell in the pollen grain in which the sperms are formed. A cavity in the ovule in which the pollen grains are stored after pollination. An opening in the mega gametophyte through which a pollen tube approaches the egg. And D1, the microsporangium in which pollen grains develop. Please note down this. This is one of the very important question and it has been asked in the NEET 2007. Okay, I'm moving to the next question. The world's tallest angiosperm flowering tree is sequoia, eucalyptus, pinus, cedrus. So if you remember the individuals of gymnosperm and angiosperm examples, that is very, very important. You can answer this question. Okay? So please note down. The world's tallest angiosperm flowering tree is Sequoia gigantica, Eucalyptus, Pinus, and Cedrus. Moving to the next question. The wood of Pinus is Monoxylic, polyxylic, pycnoxylic, monoxylic, or pycnoxylic? This is pycnoxylic. It is Li basically. Last question. Megasporophyll of cycas has the same nature as stamen, petals, sepals, carpels. Very good. Some of the answers are coming. Yes, pycnoxylic. Okay. So I hope you have noted down this question, right? So thank you very much. We will meet again with a new chapter. Okay. Please do take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.